Welcome to HerWorth by Design, the podcast for girls and young women becoming rooted in worth, clear in identity, and strong in purpose. I am Praisy, and I'm so glad you're here. Have you ever said yes when everything inside you was screaming no? Have you ever answered a call you didn't want to answer, lent money you couldn't afford to lend, stayed in conversations that drained you, or accepted treatment that made you uncomfortable because you didn't want to disappoint someone? Maybe you're worried that setting boundaries will make you seem selfish, unkind, difficult, or unchristian. That's you. I want you to hear this today. A boundary is not rejection, a boundary is self respect. Healthy boundaries are one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. They protect your purpose, your energy, your peace, your relationships, and your future. Yet, for many girls and young women, boundaries feel uncomfortable because we have been taught to be nice, accommodating, available, and self sacrificing at all costs. But what if constantly saying yes to everyone else is causing you to say no to yourself? Today, we are talking about boundaries, why they matter, how they enhance living purposefully, and how they can completely transform your life. Healthy boundaries are personal rules that help keep you safe and respected. They show others how you want to be treated. They help you recognize when something doesn't feel right. They remind you that you never owe anyone unlimited access to your time, your attention, your body, your energy, or your peace. Boundaries are not about controlling other people. They are about understanding what belongs to you and what doesn't. One of the most freeing lessons I've ever learned is this: knowing what I'm responsible for gives me freedom. There was a season in my life when I felt responsible for everyone. Whenever a friend or a relative needed financial help, I was always there, no matter the cost. Sometimes I even took out new loans for people who hadn't repaid the previous ones and seemed to have completely forgotten about them. If someone needed a helping hand, I stepped in, even if it meant putting my own work on hold. I carried burdens that weren't mine to carry. The problem was that while I was trying to rescue everyone else, I was neglecting what God had actually entrusted to me. I was stressed. I was overwhelmed. I struggled with debts that weren't even created by my own needs. And many times, the people I was helping weren't taking responsibility for the very situation I was sacrificing for. Eventually, I had to learn a hard but life changing lesson. When I take responsibility for what belongs in someone else's boat, I stop taking care of what God placed in mine. I had to learn that some things belong to God, some lessons belong to other people, and my role is not to save everyone. My role is to obey God. Boundaries are not designed to keep people out. They are designed to help us understand what we are and what we are not called to carry. God never intended for you to lose yourself trying to keep everyone else happy. In fact, God has given you the right and responsibility to protect your body, mind, heart, time, and your well being. One of the clearest examples come from the parable of the 10 virgins. When the foolish virgins asked for oil, the wise virgins said no, not because they were unkind, but because some responsibility can't be outsourced. If they had given away their oil, everyone would have missed the bridegroom. You never have to sacrifice your safety, your peace, your purpose, your dignity, or self respect to gain acceptance, opportunities, or relationships. Now, here is where many of us get stuck. We know boundaries are important, but we fear what will happen when we start setting them. What if people get upset? What if I lose friends? What if people think I'm selfish? What if I disappoint someone? Says, let me lovingly remind you. Remember this: boundaries are litmus test for the quality of our relationships. Many girls and young women fall into what I call the savior trap. We have been conditioned to believe that love means always helping, always giving, always fixing, always rescuing, always saying yes. But love without boundaries often becomes enabling. Love without wisdom becomes exhaustion. Love without limits becomes resentment. When we continually ignore our own needs, we begin to feel frustrated, overwhelmed, guilty, and emotionally drained. We start saying things like, everything depends on me. No one ever helps me. Why do I always have to carry everyone? That's often a signal that our boundaries need attention. Our emotions are valuable messengers. When you consistently feel resentment, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, or emotional exhaustion, it may be a sign that someone is crossing your boundaries or that you're crossing your own. Pay attention to those feelings. Don't miss them. Don't minimize them. Listen to them. God designed your intuition and emotions to provide important information. So, how do we start building healthy boundaries? Here are 4 practical steps. Step 1. Define your boundary. Ask yourself, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? Where do I consistently feel overwhelmed, anxious, resentful, pressured, or disrespected? Maybe it's name calling, maybe it's lending money, maybe it's overcommitting your schedule, maybe it's allowing people unlimited access to your time, maybe it's gossip. Identify it clearly. Know your non negotiable. Step 2. Communicate it clearly. You don't need a long explanation. You don't need to apologize. You don't need to convince people. A simple and a respectful statement is enough. No, I'm unable to commit to that. I'm not in a position to lend you money anymore. I'm not comfortable discussing that. I need some time to myself this weekend. I don't appreciate being spoken to that way. Remember, no is a complete sentence. Step 3. Have a consequence. Boundaries without consequences are merely suggestions. If someone repeatedly disrespects your boundary, decide ahead of time what you will do. Maybe you end the conversation, maybe you leave the environment, maybe you reduce access, maybe you stop responding. The consequence isn't punishment, it's protection. Step 4. Follow through. This is the hardest part. People learn how to treat us by what we consistently allow. If you say you have a boundary but never enforce it, people quickly learn that your words don't require action. Hold the line. Be consistent, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Over time, healthy people will adjust and unhealthy people will reveal themselves. Either way, you gain clarity, and clarity is a gift. Sis, as we close today's episode, I want to leave you with this truth. Boundaries are love in action. They are not selfish, they are not cruel, they are not lack of grace, they are a reflection of wisdom. They help you protect what God has entrusted to you. Your time matters, your voice matters, your peace matters, your body matters, your purpose matters, and you matter. I want to challenge you to identify one area where you need a healthier boundary. Write it down, pray about it, communicate it, and commit to honoring it. Because every time you set a healthy boundary, you are sending yourself a powerful message. I'm worthy of respect. If this episode encouraged you, share it with another girl or young woman who needs this reminder today. Until next time, remember you are created with worth, you are created with purpose, and you are designed by God on purpose and for a purpose. See you in the next episode.